Toto? I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
Welcome to Mo Banshee's Lair, Visionary Talk Radio on GCR Progressive Internet Radio. We're rocking your world. And welcome to Mo Banshee's Lair, Visionary Talk Radio on GameConRadio.com. We are rocking your world tonight. So, anyway, this is my second night teching a show, my own show. And, of course, I'm learning, and I needed time to figure this out, and I'm also listening to myself a second time. Tonight's show, we've got Libby Segal. It's Segal, right?
Yep.
Okay, and she's the Hobby Hoarder. She'll be on in a few minutes. And I have some crazy but news. Next week is the Titanic show. And Stephen Cameron from the Belfast Titanic Society will be on, and I have a special interview with him. And then on the 16th, I have Cheryl Lynn, and she's coming back, and she's going to do the 2013 predictions. And let me do some crazy but news. There's a bit of sad news. Sean Fitzgerald wrote this. Jess Franco, the prolific Spanish filmmaker who became renowned for his low-budget cult films, Dracula and The Awful Dr. Orloff, We Are 18 Years Old, a few of those, Necronomicon, and Vampiros Lesbos, and Dracula versus Frankenstein is dead at the age of 82. He's one of those B-movie guys, and his movies do have a cult following, so that's very cool. We hope his family, is comforted in knowing that he's a famous guy. An Illinois man was arrested in New Jersey with $200,000 worth of stolen Wisconsin cheese. New Jersey authorities say Vinamin Konstanovic Bilecki, 34 years old, from South Suburban Plainfield, was arrested Tuesday afternoon. They pulled his truck over. He was driving a refrigerated truck carrying 42,000 pounds of Munster cheese. Nobody says what he was going to do with this Munster cheese. And that's kind of weird. That's a lot of cheese to, kidnap. And evidently he's not saying what he was going to do with it. But because it's been, it's been stolen, the company K&K can't take the cheese back because they can't guarantee it. So they said if it passes inspection, the authorities will donate it to charity. So it's I don't understand why 42,000 pounds of cheese were abducted, but that's on him. Alexander Mandan, buried alive as a cure for being struck by lightning 4 times. Okay, this guy is a Colombian. He's 20 years old. He's been struck by lightning 4 times since September. And the local witch doctor has said that the way he has to solve this problem is by being buried with his head hanging out. And when he's under the ground, his body will give off the bad electric voltage. And they did it once, but it didn't work because they didn't bury him right. I guess they covered his head. He got upset with that whole first burial thing. So he's not to be, he's not a coward. He let them bury him again. And the idea is they're going to release this electrical charge into the ground, and hopefully he won't be electrocuted anymore by lightning. And a man named Eduardo, he's some guy that was writing on this article about it. He says, it's a shame, such a nice guy. He's a well-grounded man, too. I hope there's a bright spark in the story, and He says, wouldn't it be cool if his name was Rod? So if you go to South America or Colombia and you're getting hit by electric lightning, they'll bury you, and that should solve it. If nothing else, it should solve the whole problem. The other thing that was in the news is the 8 top ways to make your funeral memorable, and I'm going to try to get this gal on. She's written a book, and I don't have her name right now, but she was in the news today, and you know, funerals now, everybody worries about the dying bit because it usually hurts. You know, you're usually either sick or something, or and then you drop dead, or you're in an accident. But once you're dead, people don't worry about funerals. So we have 8 of the most bizarre things that are going on with funerals now. Hiring mourners, that's number 8. If you're worried you don't have enough people to come to your funeral and cry, you can always hire people to cry. This is an old tradition, actually. It goes back to the Bible. And, you know, the family would hire mourners to sit by the body and sit there and cry and all of that stuff, ripping their clothes off, pulling their hair. The tradition is still carried on to a great extent in China, where $500 will get you 45 minutes of somebody sobbing. So if you're a right old bastard and nobody liked you and nobody wanted to shed a tear for you, you can always make pre-arrangements to hire people to go and cry at your funeral. It might be a new way for people in this economy to make money. I don't know. Number 7, a hands-free funeral. Well, there are bizarre rules surrounding royal families. The King of Tonga certainly takes the cake. When he dies, he's so important no one can touch him, even after he dies. So the guys, the royal undertakers who prepare the body, are required to honor the late king by doing absolutely nothing with their hands for the next 100 days. And over the 3 months after the royal funeral, they have servants dress them, feed them, and attend to their more personal needs. So if you want to go hands-free and you've got somebody who's stupid enough to, you know, go along with this, you can do a hands-free funeral. A stripper funeral. This was unique. In Taiwan, the more people show up at your funeral, the better. Your spirit is more likely to be happy in the afterlife if its funeral is a loud, happy affair. And since it is hard to convince people to have an impromptu dance party at something as dour as burial, the people from Taiwan have found another way to get people in the festive mood. They hire strippers. Groups of strippers travel around the country in buses that look like parade floats and are paid to show up at funerals and entertain the mourners. That's neat. I mean, you know, if you've got a pervert, that's the way to go. You know, maybe your old dead uncle won't enjoy it, but you'll have a grand time. Number 5, dancing with the dead in Madagascar. Being buried once isn't enough. Every few years, family members will come together at an ancestral crypt, take the bodies out, and add booze to the mix, and suddenly you have a heck of a party. And people come from miles around, play music, get drunk, and they dance with the clothes-wrapped bodies of their late relatives. While the newer corpses are literally passed around from person to person to dance with after the party is over, the dead are reinterred until the next get-together. What a fun way to do it, you know? Hey, yeah, just dig up Grandma and tell her to come out and have a party one more time, just like an Irish ceilidh. Number 4, fancy coffins. This is a new one. If anybody's looked at Costco, you can get Budweiser coffins, you can get Anheuser-Busch, you can get all kinds of things, firemen, marine, you can get all kinds of things. You know, you can get them sprayed with all kinds of, like, Iron Man pictures. So if you're going to go with a simple burial service, you might want to spice it up by getting a coffin that's custom made. Artisans in Ghana have become world famous for their fancy coffins built to represent something special about the deceased. Maybe you can never put it down in your iPhone, but they do make cell phone shaped coffins for people. They make all kinds of things I've seen them made like cell phones and everything else. So that's a way to go. A fancy coffin if you're not up to the strippers or dancing with your dead relatives. Number 3, post-mortem marriages. And I saw this. The guy's his girlfriend died, and she, they were going to get married, so he ended up marrying her and having a wedding and all. She was laid out in her bridal gown. Some countries, it's legal to marry a deceased person, but you can't consummate the marriage. So, France is the first to start allowing the practice during World War II. I saw one man in Japan marry his dead fiancée. So that's another way you can go. If somebody doesn't survive to the wedding, just marry them after they're dead and they can't bitch about it. They can't say no, right? Number 2, self-mummification. A sect of Buddhist monks in Japan used to prepare their bodies for death years before they died. While it's illegal, there are rumors it still happens today. In order to achieve enlightenment, some brothers would attempt to mummify themselves. This involved eating nothing but nuts and roots for years, as well as drinking a poison tea that was normally used to glaze pottery. So if you want to have some control over what you look like, you might want to self-mummify yourself and make sure you've got everything you want on you in case you die unexpectedly. And the first trend it's making a huge comeback to is post-mortem photography. We had a show about that. And when they were cutting-edge technology, cameras were used to photograph war and death. And people realized they didn't have pictures of their children, and there were groups of photographers who would go from town to town, and they would take the children of people, pose them, and take pictures of the dead child. Sometimes they would have an artist draw in eyes on the pictures so that it didn't look like the child was dead. While very morbid, it did comfort some people. Sometimes that's the only picture they had of their child. But it is coming back, especially for women who lose newborn babies. There are special photographers who will come and take pictures of your newborn baby so that you have something to remember that child. But it is also now coming back with family members taking pictures. And I know my neighbor downstairs, Karen, she took pictures of her mother for her father so that he had a picture of her in a coffin. And I thought it was a little weird because Mary Ellen didn't look anything like she did when she was alive. She was nothing but literally skin and bones. But it comforted Pat to have pictures of him. And poor Karen is the one who had to take the pictures, and I can only hope nobody took pictures of Karen because she didn't look too hot either. So, but that is coming back, and I've heard of it before. It is coming back in a big way. So there's your crazy but news, people. And like I said, next week we have a Titanic show. And our guest is waiting, if she's not brain dead by now. And I'm getting an echo, so please forgive me, everybody. Our guest is Libby Segal. She is the Hobby Hoarder, and I read a thing about her on AOL Huffington News thing, and I was stunned at her because she's so young. And she's so pretty, and it seems like she's got a death wish or something. But Libby, welcome to the lair.
Hey there, yeah. No death wish, no death wish. I just really like life a lot. I like living it.
How old are you?
I'm 24 years old.
You're 24 years old. My goodness. Let's just look at a couple of things. Pole dancing, samurai sword fighting, hip-hop dancing, stunt jumping, horseback riding, boxing, shark diving, bookbinding, that's bookbinding, sewing, fencing, pottery, inhale, meditation, beer brewing, plane flying, tea tasting, paddle boarding, knife throwing, exhale, chocolate making, unicycle riding, wire walking, breathe, overwhelmed, yet yes I am. You're a stand-up comic, right?
I'm a stand-up comic, that's right.
And you're also a writer. You're writing a book about what you've been doing the last year?
I'm writing a book about my 52 weeks, the 52 new things, yep. And I work in television. I'm an associate producer for television.
Oh, wow. You've got a lot on your plate for a young lady. So how did you fall into this?
I fell into the hobby hoarder route after I started taking up things like stand-up comedy, photography, and drawing, and an acting class. And someone said to me, one of my supervisors at work actually said to me, you really need to quit something. And I said, no way. And I went the school opposite way and decided I wanted to try everything under the sun. And since that day, the only thing I've quit is that job. So.
Wow. Let me just check and make sure everything's working here. Let's ask why. Was there one thing that kicked it off? Did you watch Hoarders? You know that show Hoarders with all the people that live in garbage?
No. I've never watched it. I've never ever watched
it. You've never watched it?
Never watched it. But I mean, I do base the whole idea off of this idea of hoarding, right? So I am going to keep a few of the hobbies, but the whole idea was I was going to try all of these, put them kind of in the attic of my mind, right? So I can go back to them whenever I want. So I'm hoarding the hobbies to go back to. So, yeah.
You did do some things that you were afraid of, right? That you had some fears.
Yeah, I've been scared of ocean water for a long time. I got stuck in the undertow when I was a little kid on a family vacation, and I had to be saved by the lifeguard. So I went surfing this year, which terrified me. I remember walking out with the surfboard and being like, nope, not going to do this, getting pummeled by a wave, and then just going back out there, getting on the board, trying it, and being like, all right, I can do this. And I got over my fear of ocean water, and just like that. It was awesome.
Yeah, and thank you, Anita, in the chat, because I did have the other thing going on. That's why I heard the echo. Let's say the most satisfying hobby. What is the most satisfying hobby you've tried?
There's probably two. I mean, piloting a plane has definitely been the best experience of the last year. I mean, I did it 3 times. That's how much I enjoyed it. But I also recently, the last hobby, technically, of the year was a cross-country round-trip road trip. And that was just incredible. I saw so many parts of this country that I never knew existed. And it's like, it was fun to wake up every morning. It was like, I want to wake up every morning. I don't want to sleep in. I want to enjoy every hour I have. So it was pretty incredible.
You gave up your daytime job, so how did you afford it? Because some of this stuff looks like it costs a lot of money.
Yeah. I mean, some of it was pretty expensive, but so what happened was in July I quit my full-time job that had benefits. But I transitioned into a freelance period, so I started taking freelance gigs, and I actually ended up working 40 to 80 hours a week for the rest of the year. I never had a break. So I was working full-time and still doing the hobby, so I was saving up on the side. But I was just filling my days.
Okay, so the flying, I'm going to assume that's now a lifetime thing that you're going to keep doing, because I know if I could learn how to fly, I'd be really happy.
Oh my God, yeah. It's so freeing, and so we went on the last day on the road trip. We went on a pilot lesson around New York City, and we set up the next one. My birthday, June 10th, we're going to do another flying lesson. So.
Yeah. What kind of plane do you fly?
It's a small 3-person plane, one engine.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
And does anybody actually get in a plane with you? Is everybody cool with it?
Oh yeah,
or
absolutely. Absolutely. No. I mean, I didn't force anyone in the airplane with me, but I did have a professional instructor in the plane with me, and then
yeah,
my good friend Kim joined me for two of the flights. My friend David for one of them, and my friend Grant for another. So, yeah, they're excited about it every time it happens. They just want to come.
We're going to be talking a lot about the different things because stand-up comics. That's a rough gig, isn't it?
It is, but I like talking and I like making people laugh. So if it works and I have a good night, I'm really, really happy at the end of it. So, and if I have a bad night, I just figure, you know what, I get another try.
And what kind of comic are you? Do you take pot shots at social things? I mean,
yeah, it's definitely like a little bit at social media, self-deprecating, personal.
That's always high in regard. Yes.
Yeah. I refuse to attack audience members. There's no need, so I just do quirky stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's cool. Where do you do your act in local theaters, or do you travel?
Yeah, I do a few local places in New York City. I've performed and produced a show up at the Underground Lounge. This Friday night, I'm going to be at Karma in the Village, doing a few minutes. It's my first show in 2 months since we were on the trip, and I've done some shows in the Gotham Basement and Eastville Comedy Club. I've performed in Pennsylvania. I've performed in Connecticut. So try and get on stage when I can.
Okay, so in the Village this weekend, you can go see her in Karma. Right, that's the name of the club in the Village.
Yep, Karma Club, Friday night.
Yeah, that's cool. Most dangerous. Is there anything your family looked at you and said, "Are you out of your mind"? Yeah.
My mom didn't actually say it out loud, but she said it afterwards. She didn't want me to go skydiving at all. When I told her I was going skydiving, I said, "Mom, I have a hobby that you don't want to know." And she goes, "Tell me." I said, "Skydiving." She said, "I don't want to know anymore." So I went. Afterwards, I called her, and she said, "All right, I've been praying like all morning," or something to that. She was just like, "Okay, I was so nervous. I just needed you to call." So yeah, she wasn't looking forward to that one.
Yeah, because you see, when we make you guys, you don't bounce. You're not good bouncers. Really. I've had 3 children, and you know what? None of them bounce well. Especially with the head hitting the concrete, and there was the blood and the screaming, and we look at it and go, "Oh my God, I should have made him out of latex or something like that." Oh, damn me for having a latex allergy. I could have made a latex baby. But it would seem to me from some of the stuff that you've been doing that it's kind of scary and dangerous for some of this stuff. We're going to go to a break. And we're going to be coming back and talking about some other dangerous things you've done. And we're going to do Neil Diamond. I picked out 3 songs for your show because I thought they reflected your personality. Neil Diamond's A Beautiful Noise. That's a very upbeat song. Stone Pony's Different Drum. Here we go to a different drum. And Toby Keith, How Do You Like Me Now? How are those songs for you tonight?
I love that stuff.
Okay, so we got 3 good songs, and we'll be right back. This is GCR Radio, and tonight our guest is Libby Segal, the Hobby Hoarder. And I guess I clicked this, right?
Well, hello there. This is Stan, inviting you to listen to Jurassic Park, where we dig up the old bones of rock and roll, 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond, and then carefully rebury them. Thursday nights, 8 Eastern on GCR.
Hello? Welcome back to Mo Banshee's Lair. Okay, I'm still learning this and trying to get it all squared away, and the tech is over my shoulder, and I'm pressing all kinds of buttons, right? Okay. And we're good to go. Our guest is Libby Segal, and she's talking about hobbies. She decided to take it upon herself to go out and try as many hobbies as she could in a year. Let me ask you, did you have a set amount that you were going to do when you decided this? Did you like sit down and say I was going to do 52 different hobbies, or did you just say I'm going to try to do as many as I can?
Yeah, I started out the year, I said I'm going to do 52 hobbies in 52 weeks. It's perfect, it matches, it's the perfect year. And I had read about all these other projects that people were doing. AJ Jacobs was doing these year-long gigs. Gretchen Rubin with the Happiness Project, she did her year-long quest. And so I set out on it, and what happened was around, less than three-quarters of the way through the year, I was like, why am I limiting myself? And I started doing 2 or 3 hobbies a week, and it just turned into this beautiful lifestyle as opposed to a project, right? So by the end of the year, I had upwards of 60 hobbies in 52 weeks, and now it's 8 weeks past the new hobby year, I should say, because it started on February 17th, 2012. The hobby year technically ended in February. I'm up to around 70-something hobbies in 60 weeks. So it's been pretty incredible.
How did you do it, though? Because, brewing beer, that takes time. So did you do a little bit every day, or did you just devote an entire week to trying to do it?
No, with brewing beer, at least, what happened was I signed up for a side tour in New York City, which I'm really lucky. I mean, New York City is just endless opportunities, right? So you can find a pole dancing class one day, and then you could go beer brewing in someone's basement the next day. So that's essentially what I did. I went home beer brewing in someone's basement, and he taught us all the steps, and it was a 6-hour to 8-hour process, and then the beer ferments, and it takes about 4 weeks, and then 4 weeks later you go back and you taste the beer. Now, the funny thing about the beer brewing is I actually don't drink. So I just wanted to see how the whole process was done. I never went back to even try my beer.
Oh, my God. So you don't, did you have somebody that you could trust and say, you go back and drink it, and they let you know if it was okay?
No, I just figured it was good.
Okay.
The best.
Oh,
yeah.
my God.
I mean, there was a group of us. There were like 10 of us, and some of them went back. They liked it, so.
Yeah. I got to tell you, I was never a big fan of home brewed beer. I had a neighbor who used to do it, and periodically we would hear his basement blowing up as bottles exploded, So I never was a big, huge fan of drinking his beer. He'd always say it was, it's so good, and then you'd hear something explode down in the basement, So I never got into that. Okay, shark diving. Let's talk about that. You have a fear of being in the water, so what do? You decide to go swimming with sharks.
Yeah, I went swimming with sharks. It was actually at the Camden Aquarium, which I think, the safest thing you can do in Camden, New Jersey is swim with sharks, because that's the most dangerous place in the world. But it was, you get to the aquarium, they suit you up in this scuba suit, and you go and you're watching these tanks of sharks, and then they lead you into the water, and you're just in there with the tank. You have to be really, really still though, because if you obviously moving is what haunts them, gets them to come towards you. So if you're really still, you don't swim. You just stay where you are, and some of them they came pretty close sometimes, but we were good. I mean, the aquarium masters kind of kept them away from us, and it was good since I have that fear of water and everything. But sometimes my fear with water comes with some other fears, right? So my self-conscious fear is always being in front of people in a bathing suit. So part of the scariest part of that shark dive was actually just being in a bathing suit in front of strangers.
Yeah, that's my problem too, and being in the sun, because the sun and I don't like each other anymore. And they would have to make a tent for me to wear a bathing suit. I don't even know if they make shark suits big enough for people like me. And I'd have to bring my cane so I could beat the little sharks off. The Camden Aquarium is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, oh my God, yeah.
It's a wonderful, wonderful aquarium, and the problem is it's in kind of a sucky area, to get to. It's not it isn't like you just pull off the turnpike and there it is. you pull off the turnpike and you do these weaving in and out in all these roads, and then finally, 40 minutes later you get there. But the Battleship New Jersey is there, and then you can go across on a ferry and go to the Philadelphia shipyards, and as long as you can get back before the ferries end, you can walk into Old Town in Philadelphia, which is an incredible place to walk around when you think of our founding fathers. But the aquarium it's great. I've brought my Andrew there a lot. Once it opened, I brought my son Andrew there a lot when he was little, and he loved it. And you can pet the stingrays. They have a little tank that you can pet.
What's cool about that, right, is so that they have that tank that your son got to pet the stingrays in, but if you do the swim with the sharks adventure, they have a whole nother stingray tank that you can actually swim with, like, the big stingrays. And you can feed them, and, like, they'll come up and, like, suck the food right out of your hand. And so that was really neat about the whole swimming with sharks experience, too.
That is cool. Samurai sword fighting, what is it? You have a secret? You want to be Luke Skywalker or something?
Yeah, pretty much. I want to be in a ninja movie, essentially.
Yeah,
or a Jedi. I did 2 types I did 2 types of sword fighting. I did samurai sword fighting. I did lightsaber fighting. Now, the samurai sword fighting, they don't give you a real sword because you'll cut body parts off, essentially, in your first lesson. But it's taught in New York City, and the moment I found that out, I was like, I've got to go take this. It's so unique. It's so New York, and I got there, and they handed me this big wooden sword, and I almost felt like it was too big for me because I just, like, kept I would have flashed off my arm if I had a real sword, let's be honest. And then they go through the basic steps of being a samurai sword person, the offense, the defense. I took 3 lessons, and it was really cool. I felt like a ninja. And then lightsaber fighting was, I had no idea that existed as a choreography stunt in New York City. And then a friend said to me, "Hey, Libs, I'm going to take Jedi lightsaber fighting next week. You should join me." And I was like, "Oh, that's totally awesome. Where?" He was completely joking. He had no idea there was a class. And I started Googling it, and I found this class. And I was like, I'm going. So I went to the next class. And now some of those people I keep in touch with all the time. The leader, or one of the leaders of the lightsaber crew that I was with, actually taught me how to do stilt walking. So. Yes.
The lightsaber, did you have to talk like Darth Vader or talk really weird, and cut your arm off, you will, stuff
No,
like
but
that,
I honestly, I wanted to dress up like Yoda. I really wanted to get a Yoda costume, like a Luke Skywalker costume, but
I couldn't help it. I would have showed up at least one class with a Yoda mask on or something, in a green robe. Really? Yeah. You are dead meat, you are.
Well, I dressed up like Robin Hood for archery, so, I tried.
Yeah. Yeah, archery and fencing. Regular fencing is samurai swords and fencing. These are very disciplined.
Absolutely.
Things. Did you get yelled at a lot?
Not so much. They really treat it like beginner courses, which is the nice thing about the group classes here. I was always so scared to do group classes because of that whole idea that it would be militaristic, or people would be yelling down your throat, or just if you can't do something, someone else in the class will be judging you. But what was really nice about samurai sword fighting, for instance, it's all beginners who found a Groupon or a living social deal, and they all go to the same class, and so everyone starts the same, and they take it step by step. And then fencing, I actually took a private lesson. So, he just was one-on-one with me, and he wasn't yelling at me at all. But I did learn how in shape you have to be to fence. That is
that's it.
Sport.
Next year, you got to make a movie with Liam Neeson. Do fencing or samurai, or be back in time, and you can be a female soldier during the Crusades or something neat like that. And then you go into bookbinding. It's something, it kind of like falls. Pole dancing is interesting, samurai swords, fencing, even the lightsaber thing, but then you go into bookbinding. What was that about?
I actually, you know what? I think I wrote that on the website before I did. That was on the original 52-week list. I'm still looking for somewhere to do bookbinding. The arts and crafts that I ended up doing was birdhouse making this year with my mom.
Okay.
And so, like, completely different, right? It's calm, it's cool, it's collective. But like, I did it for Mother's Day. It was a special treat, and you know, we worked on it together. But it was like so frustrating because neither of us are very good with our hands. So we're like, where does this screw go, and how long do you have to screw it in for? And we ended up making all these little lines that probably a mother and a daughter shouldn't say on a video together. But it was really nice. Like, that's the thing about this year, the extreme difference between skydiving or fencing and building a birdhouse. It's like you can do anything, and you'll still find it enjoyable because you just go into it with an open mind, and it's fun no matter what.
Yeah, I have a camper down in South Jersey, and it's by Batstow Village, and I make the birdhouses, you know, but I cheat. I go to like Michael's or one of them, and I buy the wooden birdhouses, and then I paint them. And, you know, of course, one house will look like Spasm's flat, and then the other one will look like a nice birdhouse, you know. It depends on what quirky mood I'm in, you know. But, you know, I would have thought to myself, oh, you know, I made these things. How long are they going to last? And they've lasted longer than any of the ones we bought or anything. They last forever. Yeah. And the crappier they get, the more the birds like them. The more they leak, the more the wood starts to warp and all that, the better they seem to like it. It's like the first 3 years, nobody wanted to look at it. Oh, it's new. It's got to be no good, you know. But once it got a little green mold on the roof and everything, the birds were pretty cool with it. So I was pretty proud of myself because they're still actually hanging, you know. And, you know, it is. It's fun because you're doing something and then you're going to watch something live in them. Hip-hop dancing. Was that always a big dream of yours?
Hip-hop dancing is interesting because I am so choreographically challenged and, like, uncoordinated, right? So I've taken Zumba classes before this year and walked out of them because I just could not get the steps down. And hip-hop class was so early in the year that I felt like that would be a very similar experience for me. I didn't know how to dance at middle school dances or high school dances. People kind of giggled at me on the side. It's cool. I'm over it now. But, it was funny to watch me try and dance. It's still funny to kind of try and watch me dance. So going to hip-hop, I brought a good friend of mine so that we could kind of get through it together. And, you know, I absolutely loved it. I ended up taking a lot more dance classes throughout the year, and now just dancing whenever is one of my favorite hobbies. I mean, I went to a power dance class last night at the gym, and something about trying everything is you kind of get better at learning. Like, learning almost becomes its own hobby. So now I pick up moves really fast, and even though I'm a little uncoordinated, I can get the dance steps down and just kind of hop right into things.
Cool. In the chat, Stanley is saying bonsai trees is a nice hobby. And they were talking about raising baby chicks. Chicken raising is a good hobby.
Oh, that would be awesome.
See, we mean to help you here. If you want to be a hoarder, we aim to help. I was going to suggest... Go ahead.
No. I mean, when we were on our trip up in Nooksack, Washington, we visited my friend's cousin, and he had a chicken coop in the backyard, and they were getting fresh eggs every day, and I could just totally do that one day. Definitely have a chicken coop.
Irish dancing. Irish dancing is like the forefront of square dancing. You know, Celtic dancing, and the Irish Federation gives lessons in that, and I think the Brookdale College also gives lessons in Gaelic and Irish dancing. Some of the nuns, I don't know if they still do it, but they were doing it up till a few years ago. But that's always fun. You know, it's nice to see where the original dancing came from. The kind of dancing you see at square dancing. This was all the beginning of it. Let's see. pole dancing. That's. I'm dying to find out what your family thought of that one.
You know, I think my mom was surprised by it.
I saw you in the video. You're not too good.
I said I can't give up my day job.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think my mom understood why I did it. I did it as the first hobby because I knew it wasn't something people would expect me to do. Someone who's kind of always been like a little bit overweight, very self-conscious, never really like put herself out there. For me, I knew it was the one thing I had to do to show people like this is the project I'm working on this year, and know that I'm going to do it. Like I'm going all out. And so when my mom kind of saw it, I think she understood. She got it. She always gets what I'm doing. She knows there's a reason. That was a fun day. I was sore afterwards. That was really painful.
These girls are athletes. These girls are athletes. They do it every single day, and I mean, they do the stretches before they start. This is like a marathon athletic event, pole dancing.
Oh my God!
It's not easy.
Yeah, it's insane. They're so strong, and like, I mean, they must hit. When you start out, you just hit the floor so many times. I just remember having scrapes on my knees, and like, I mean, it was totally fun, and it was the first time I felt like really, really just sexy because I let myself do it. And it was the first new thing I tried, so I was like, all right, if I can do this, like, I can start jumping into other stuff right away.
Yeah, if I can dance like a slut, jumping out of a plane is a breeze, right?
Well, the problem is, like, I get really attached to things, right? So, like, I signed up for an acting workshop, and, like, the next day I was signed up for, like, 6 more months of acting class, which gets really expensive, right? I go to this pole dancing class, and afterwards they're like, sign up for 7 more classes for $45, and I'm like, oh, I should totally do it. And then I had to stop myself. But, like, I could have done that with every hobby I tried this year, with the exception of downhill mountain biking, because that was like the scariest thing I've ever done in my life. Absolutely the scariest thing.
What was the most serious?
The most scary thing I've done in my entire life was downhill mountain biking. It's literally you take a bike to the top of a ski lift, and you ride down a ski mountain, a very, very thin one, over rocks and very narrow. The turns are very tight, and I actually crashed the mountain bike.
Oof.
So
and they're not cheap.
Yeah, it's what was that?
They're not cheap, those mountain bikes. They're specially made.
No, they're
not.
Right? Yeah. I mean, I didn't do any damage to the bike. I damaged myself, but not the bike, so it was good. It's okay. And I got the crash on video, so it's all good.
You're kind of like Lily Tomlin. Lily Tomlin used to do this shtick where she was a quadriplegic, and she'd say, "And next week I'm going hang gliding." Ha 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 ha. You know, it's like how much can the body take? Are you an only child?
No, there's 3 of us. I'm the youngest.
You're the youngest. God, your parents must have said, Jesus, am I glad this didn't happen with the first one? Because, you know, it only gets worse. What the first one will do, the third one will, like, up it up by, like, 75%. Oh, you think that's good? Yeah. I can do this, you know? So, how's the ratio with boys and girls in your family?
2 girls. My sister's the oldest, and then my brother's right in the middle. So.
Yeah, so you didn't have, like, a lot of, you have an older brother, but it's not quite like, you know, you had 2 big brothers up there that got you into this, you know? Because
no, I mean, my brother is an athlete, but he broke his leg and his arm skiing in junior year of high school, and then from there it was really, he's really academic. My brother's really smart, and he's getting his PhD, and he's on a different path, and I look up to him so much. But we're totally different.
Yeah, you're the danger bug. You like the danger stuff. Okay, knife throwing. Who let you throw knives at them?
I didn't throw knives at anyone, which was nice. But the great Perdini, who's a world record holder, invited me out to. I contacted him. I said, I'm interested in learning to throw knives. I'm doing this project. Would you be interested in teaching me? He invited me out to Long Island, and he taught me how to throw knives. My brother actually came with me to video, which was good backup. But then I let him throw knives around me. We don't use the word at because he's never throwing knives at people. He only throws knives around people. But I stood up against the target board, and he did his thing.
And you prayed, right? You did a lot of praying?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, I said to the camera, I said, Mom, I love you, and then I hope for the best.
Mom, I love you, but I think he had 3 martinis at lunch. So, you know, mate, let me ask you.
No, he's awesome. The Great 30 is amazing.
Yeah, you're careful, and you only go to people that you're going to trust, which is our little disclaimer tonight, boys and girls. Don't just let anybody do this. Don't jump off of roofs and with bikes and stuff.
No,
if you want to learn this stuff, go with professional people, which is why I love New Jersey too. In 2 hours, you can be anywhere. In 3, you can be in Washington, D.C. In an hour and a half, you can be to Philadelphia, or you can be in Broadway in New York. And there is so much that you can do in this area that a train ticket, a bus ticket, or a couple of gallons of gas can get you to. I love New Jersey. It's an amazing place, you know. It's just a shame that half the time we're underwater. So let me ask you, did you sit there with the hurricane and say, Jesus, I think I'll go stand on a pier?
Actually, well, a few days approaching the hurricane, I started Googling storm chasers, and I was like, how can I storm chase this hurricane, right? I was Googling, like, the top storm chasers, but they're all tornadoes, like, in the middle of Kansas.
Right.
And no one was storm chasing Hurricane Sandy, so I didn't get the storm chase, but I was hoping. I wanted to.
Yeah, I went the morning it hit, early in the morning. Matthew and I drove down to Union Beach, and we stood on the boardwalk there, and we took pictures, and everything we took pictures of that morning is gone. Everything is gone, and that's only a 15-minute ride for me. But you know, it was kind of, you know, surreal, because just the day before I was there, and everything was still there, and now you go there, and it literally looks like a war happened there.
Yeah,
it does.
I was working
amazing.
down in the South Street Seaport for a little bit, and I mean, we were in the only building that was really running, and we had 8 feet of water when Sandy rolled through, but the whole seaport was shut down up until about the second week of December, and it was just a ghost town. I mean, you walk down there, and you're like, where are all the people?
Keyport, right?
Yeah.
I drove down there. I finally took a really, really big, deep breath, and I drove down there like 2 weeks ago, and the museum on the waterfront is gone. The airplane museum is gone. It's just a big pile of, you know, broken wooden stuff. It's amazing. Hurricanes you can't chase so well. Paddle boarding. What is paddle boarding?
So I went stand-up paddle boarding in the Hudson River. So essentially, it's kind of like, they're kind of like surfboards, but they're a little wider. You have a bit more balance on them, and then you take like a paddle like you would take in a canoe, and you just stand up and you paddle back and forth. It's really relaxing. It's except if you're in the Hudson River, which actually moves rapidly fast.
It does. It's got a good current.
Yeah, I definitely took a pause onto my paddleboard. But I mean, you can kneel on the board if you want to, or you can stand up. It's just a really enjoyable summer day activity. I mean, I brought my best friend out, and she loved it. So.
Did you wear like a wetsuit? Because the Hudson River is you know, it's got a lot of it's got a lot of stuff in it.
We just did bathing suits and like shorts, and it's I mean, no one's grown like any third legs or arms yet, so we're pretty sure we're okay. But we also didn't really go in the water. Standing up on the paddleboard, you don't actually have to go inside the water, which is nice. And even when I fell like onto the board, so I didn't inhale the water, thankfully.
Yeah. Of course, you wore a safety vest,
Yes.
flotation vest, and everything like that,
Yep.
Let's see, you've played field hockey, baseball, softball, soccer, and baseball. You're a sports person, right?
Yeah, I grew up playing sports. I played baseball till ninth grade. Then I played softball through high school and field hockey, and then I went to college for field hockey. And then sophomore year of college at the University of Rhode Island, my team was unfortunately eliminated due to budget cuts, which actually turned out okay. I went abroad. I studied in Italy, and that's like when my heart opened up to adventure, I think. I came back, and I really have to thank University of Rhode Island for being so supportive of me and like my friends and my teachers pushing me after that cut, because they got me to a new place. It's really awesome.
When we come back, we're going to talk to you and ask you, what your insurance premiums are, and the most bizarre stuff that you've done. And the next song is going to be Stone Pony's A Different Drum, and I have a new promo that we're going to play. And since Matt's not here, I'm going to wing it and hope to God I do it right. So I'll be right back.
There's no place like home. 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 There's no place like home.
This is Mo inviting you to visit me at my lair. Mo Banshee's Lair Visionary Talk Radio airs every Tuesday night live on GCRInternetradio.com. Tune in at 9 p.m. Eastern Time Zone. Topics A to Z, Mo Banshee's Lair on GCR Internet Radio. We're rocking your world.
Just try to stay out of my way. Just try. I'll get you, my pretty, and your little dog, too.
And welcome back to Mo Banshee's Lair, Visionary Talk Radio on GameCon Radio. Actually, it's GCR Radio now. I hope everybody is enjoying our show. Libby, let me ask you something. Have you ever gotten really hurt doing this stuff?
I did. When I crashed the downhill mountain bike, I definitely bruised my groin a little bit. I had to be taken to the bottom of the hill via emergency vehicle. I just knew I wasn't going to be able to ride the rest of the way with my injury. But other than that, I didn't get injured any other way. We had a little snowmobiling accident in Colorado during our trip, but no injuries, no broken bones, and we got right back on the snowmobile and kept going, because that's what you do when you fall down. You just get right back up.
Yeah, I know. I've heard that before. Just get back up, or ever, you're never going to do it again. And you're like, well, who the hell wants to do it again? How do you get your friends to go along with you on this? Do you have a certain group that are looking for death wishes?
Yeah, all of my friends are. No, I mean, most of them really, everyone wants to try things. And we get to this point where we say we're going to try something, and then we never do, right? I know people who live in Italy have never been to the Colosseum. I know people who live in New York City never been to the Empire State Building. People just we put things off. We make excuses. We don't have enough money. We don't have enough time. Just not right now. But when someone kind of starts showing that you can do what you say you want to do, and you can make time for it, people start wanting to make time for it too. So people just, as soon as they saw that I was doing these things, they realized there were things they always wanted to try, and they asked me, I want to go stand-up paddleboarding. Will you do that with me? Or I really want to go skydiving. Let's do it together. Or trapeze. I'm terrified of it, but I'd really like to get over that fear. So I'd like to join you. So people really want to do the stuff. It's just a matter of having someone who's like, all right, this is the date I'm going, and we're gonna do this. So.
Yeah, you brought it up, trapeze, flying and stuff. What, did you go to the big circus a lot when you were a baby?
No, I think I was in circus once or twice when I was a kid, but actually, trapeze ended up being the most recommended hobby to me of the entire year. Everyone always thought that they were being so so original. It was really funny and a running joke by the end. But early in the year, my friend Taya said to me, "You should really try trapeze." And I said, "Oh, that's a great idea. That's the first person I heard it from." But then, like, once a week, thereon after, until I actually did trapeze, someone would say, "I have this great hobby for you that no one's told you. You should try trapeze." I just go with it and be like, "Yeah, that's a great idea." But I mean, everyone was recommending it, and so I just had to do it.
You said in the beginning, you said, well, I was always a little bigger. I'm assuming maybe a little chunky.
Yeah.
You're not that way now, right? After doing all of this stuff? Have you lost the weight?
No, actually. So when I was a junior/senior in college, I lost a lot of weight. I got down to the lowest I ever was. I ran 2 half marathons, and then I did the hobby year, and I maintained for a while. But this road trip, we ate we ate food on the road trip. So
and that's what you call it, right?
Yeah.
That's what you call it, a road trip. Whenever you're going to do something. So, what was this road trip about? Eating cuisine?
The last final road trip cross country, it was about everything. I mean, we tried all the local cuisines in each of the cities and states we went to. We did hobbies. We went hot air ballooning. We went snowmobiling. We went snowshoeing. We biked the Golden Gate Bridge. We went dog sledding. I mean, anything we could try, we were doing.
Dog sledding, that up in Canada?
We went in Montana. We went in Montana. This guy is amazing. He's been doing it for like 30-something years, and he just has generations of families coming. So, like, sometimes he'll have the grandma, the mom, and the daughter in, like, a sled together, which is just to know that a business runs like that and people love something so much. There are 123 dogs on the dog farm. That's incredible.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And the wire walking, I think of the old movie Circus with Victor Mature and The Big Show and all those. And, they always have one wire walker or one person on the trapeze that, goes splat, How high were you? How high were you on this stuff?
We weren't very high. We were like 2 or 3 feet off the ground. But it was, I mean, it's still scary once you're up there. You're like looking down and you're like, well, I'm not that far off the ground, but I feel pretty far off the ground because by the time you're 2 or 3 feet off the ground, you're 5 feet tall. Your face is like 8 or 9 feet off the ground.
Right.
I fell down a 10-foot wall when I was a freshman in college, so it still seemed pretty high. And then trying to get your balance, I was holding on to my trainer's hand for most of the lesson because that's how you get used to it. And I remember I was holding her hand so tightly, but I was convinced that she was holding my hand, so I kept saying, "You can let go, you can let go," as I would, like, grasp on tighter and tighter. And then eventually, she walks away, and once the trainer kind of walks away and lets you, like, just kind of attack it by yourself, you start getting it, and eventually you're crossing the wire really ungracefully, but you're doing it. And, yeah, it was one of the harder hobbies of the year, for sure.
Yeah, and again, you're talking physical dexterity. You've got to focus. There is no such thing as going in rattled. You've got to sit down and kind of find your Zen place, These are, you didn't take on some easy stuff doing this stuff. So how does, the family deal with insurance, Do they just say, "Oh, she's on a school trip," or do you, you don't get hurt much, but God, what if you did?
I'm very lucky because I'm under 26, so I'm on my parents' insurance still. So I just said, "Hey guys, I'm doing this. I'm still on your insurance, so it's okay." But I did, thankfully, I mean, in all truthfulness, since the beginning of the hobbies and the middle of the road trip, I didn't get sick one single time. I had a few headaches here and there. But, like, other than that, I didn't get sick once. I didn't get the flu. I didn't get a stomach virus. I didn't get a cold. I was healthy. I was happy. And I think happiness leads to that healthiness, right? So I needed the insurance as a just in case, but I didn't really need it because nothing terrible happened, and I didn't have to go to the doctor.
It sounds almost mundane. You took ballet, played clarinet. Why clarinet? Why not Guitar Hero or, the drums or something? Why clarinet?
Well, I took clarinet in 4th grade, I think, because someone in my family said you should really try clarinet. I didn't really want to be in the band at that point. I was so focused on sports, but everyone said you should try like everything you can as a kid. So I took up an instrument, and I squeaked too much, so that I had to leave the band. I couldn't play the clarinet. But during the hobby year, I ended up trying steel pan drumming, which is really fun. I tried beatboxing, which is an instrument in and of itself. Your voice is definitely an instrument. And then I did regular drumming, and I also did guitar. And all of them I proved to be very difficult, but something I could definitely go back to, for sure.
You collected baseball cards. See, I did when I was young, too. I collected baseball cards.
I love baseball. I love baseball. I want to. I'm gonna do a plug on your radio show. I want to get married on a baseball field. So if anyone wants to get married on a baseball field, eventually, call me, hit me up.
Okay, so I gave you your site is thehobbyhoarder.com. So if you want to get married on a baseball field, give her a call. She's free. And you may not be married for long, but you'll have your wedding on a baseball field. Your favorite team?
The Yankees.
Yeah. See, I don't care if they're winning, they're losing. They went through the horrible times during the 70s and 80s, and I still loved them. Once you're a Yankee fan, you're always a Yankee fan. Even when they're doing absolutely rotten, you just don't get mad at them because they're your team, man. Well, they did the best they could. They sucked. But they did the best they could, Do you ever go down to the Blue Claws games?
What was that?
The Blue Claws games. The Blue Claws is the...
No.
Yeah, they have a beautiful, I think it's, like down by Camden or something like that. The Camden Blue Claws, they have a beautiful baseball field there, and their games are starting up, and, they have the $5 a beer night and stuff like that. We've gone to a couple of those. Those are really nice games down there too, and not as much money as going up to the Yankees, And I cheer for both teams. I cheer for everybody. I don't care if they're winning or losing. One team hits a thing and run and I'm cheering, and then the other team hits one and I'm cheering, and people say, "Lady, will you sit down and shut up?" Because I don't want anybody to lose. That's me. So on this quest for sexiness, health, adventures, self-reflection, and happiness, what have you found out about yourself?
Oh, man. A lot.
Oh, man.
Man. That's like its own book. It is going to be a book. It's going to be my book. I found out, really what we're capable of. We get so nervous about trying these new things, and we almost, the word can't is such a strong word. If we say the word can't, it gets so into our head that we really won't be able to do something. I did unicycle riding this year, and I remember all day leading up to it, I was like, I can't do a unicycle. There's no way I'm getting on that thing and riding it. I had helmet, I had all these pads. I was convinced that I was just going to fall off this thing and break myself. And so I get on the unicycle, and the first thing I want to do is just get right back off of it because I've already convinced myself that I can't do it. But then eventually, I talk to myself, I get myself out of it, and I'm like, you can do this. The only person who's telling you that you can't is yourself. And so what I've learned is really that our mental struggles are really things that can affect our physical struggles. And in turn, physical struggles can also affect our mental struggles as well. But getting over those humps, those words like can't and no and won't and shouldn't, are huge. Once we can get through those, we can do anything. We are capable of anything we want to do. So I learned that about myself. I learned that things that are scary to me might not be jumping out of a plane. I wasn't scared to jump out of an airplane, but to stand in front of my friend for a singing lesson on one-on-one was the most vulnerable feeling in the world. I didn't want her to see me fail, but why didn't I want her to see me fail? She was my teacher. She wants to be able to teach me. That's the whole point. If I was good at it, I wouldn't be taking the lesson. So it was just like learning all these things about how we kind of enter into situations. Going shark diving, where I'm more scared about wearing the bathing suit than actually being in the tank with the sharks. Stuff like that. You just kind of learn how the mind. I learned how the mind really, my mind works, and it was baffling and it was awesome at the same time. And now I know a lot more about myself. So.
We have some questions in the chat room. Anita is asking, did you ever try leather work or making lanyards?
No, I didn't. I should definitely add those two to my list.
See, I'm telling you, these people have ideas because they're all over the country, and
I'm writing them down.
And Stanley's asking, Yankees, what's the most famous baseball card you collected?
No, I don't know what the most famous baseball card is I collected. That's really sad. I would go and I would just buy these Topps cards. My brother, he was also a big baseball card collector, but we didn't do it to like get the best one. We just did it to see who had like the most. I was one of those people who was like, oh, I have so many baseball cards. I wasn't like the Pokemon collector, right, who was like collecting to get the best Pokemon card. I was just like, I want to have every single card from every single team. I don't know what year the cards were from. I couldn't tell you any of that stuff. I just liked having them. I still have them.
I had a Babe Ruth in 1960, and there was a little boy that lived in our complex, and I gave him the entire collection, never thinking it was worth anything. I gave him the entire collection. And it was a Babe Ruth signed card that I had gotten from somebody who said, oh, you like baseball? Look what I have for you. And I went, gee, thanks, and I thought it was wonderful. And I gave it the whole collection away, Mickey Mantle signed cards, what's his name, Joltin' Joe. I had them all because I was a huge Yankees fan, but fear is subjective, we kind of, for me, falling out of the plane isn't the problem, it's landing. There's a lot of me to go splat, and surgery, because you're not in control. And I guess that's the deal breaker. It depends on whether you're in control or not of what's going to happen. Did you always feel like you were, yes, I do think I had Stan Musial, Stanley. But I always, for me, it's, am I in control or is somebody else going to be in control? Because I don't like when other people are in control. Did it feel that way for you?
I mean, I felt like at the times when other people needed to be in control, I was totally good with it. Like jumping out of an airplane, the guy attached to my back, yeah, he's going to control the parachute because I'm not going to know when to pull it, and I'm probably going to be so like, oh my God, there's a house down there. Like, I'm just going to be so focused on something else that I'm not going to pull that parachute. So him being in control, totally okay with me. I kind of wish someone would have been attached to me downhill mountain biking who could have just, like, guided me down the hill. Because I felt very out of control in that situation just with myself because I was so fearful of that mountain biking incident happening, and it did happen. I'm trying to think of other times when other people were in control. The only other time...
Let me excuse you for a minute. You see, my problem is the screaming part. You're talking about, oh, look at the house down there, and I'm thinking, the whole freaking way down,
Well, the thing is, you jump out of an airplane, you can't hear yourself scream. There's no noise. You can't hear anything because of how fast you're falling. Like, there's nothing but your face and the wind blowing your face back. And, something that was nice for me, I had a camera guy jump with me. So you can pay extra for that to happen. I was focused on the house down below, but I was really focused on this camera guy. So I didn't even think about anything else. I was like, just smile on this camera so that you have a really cool video afterwards. So I just focused on that.
Look good. Is the hair okay?
Here, exactly.
No
accidents. I was wearing like a tiger suit. I was like ready.
Let me ask, there's another question. Did you go to a ground school to jump at all? You went to a jumping school, right, or what?
I went to a place in the Poconos or Scranton area called Endless Mountain Skydivers, and I mean they just do these tandem jumps. So you get there, you sign up the paperwork that says, if I die, my family won't see you, and then you watch a video, and then you get on a small plane attached to someone, and they jump out of the plane. You jump out of an airplane. That's it. No training.
Yes, and kiddies, do not do this stuff without your parents' permission. She didn't need her parents' permission. She was old enough to kill herself on her own. Yeah, that's you know, even for like these ghost hunts and stuff that they run now. In all these like old prisons that really should probably be leveled because of the contaminants in them and the lead paint and everything like that. You have to sign a release saying that if you end up with you know, a lung disease from it, or you get sick, you can't come around and sue them, even though that's probably where you got the contaminant from.
Absolutely.
But that's every place you go, that's a stipulation. You can't sue them. Do you know you have to sign that even when you have surgery?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Or even like jobs in New York City I've signed up for, like signed contracts for. At the bottom of the page is, who's your emergency contact, and you won't sue us, right? Like,
yeah.
No one wants to be held responsible.
Yeah, nobody wants to be, but let me ask you, because what you're doing is very it's very similar to reality TV in a way, and I'm watching reality TV get more and more bold to the point where I think sooner or later somebody's going to die doing one of these stunts. What is that show where they have to run over the obstacle course in the water, and some of these people, they like the arms swing around and it knocks them into the water, and they are just knocked down like rag dolls? Have you thought of doing one of those?
Yeah, that show Wipeout. Yeah, that doesn't really interest me.
Yeah, that's it.
No. Yeah, I mean, I am all about people challenging themselves and getting out of their comfort zone. The whole project is to inspire people to do that, right? It's not necessarily pick up 52 hobbies in 52 weeks. It's not necessarily go jump out of an airplane or jump off a trapeze or go hang gliding. But if you want to knit a hat and you've never knit a hat before, go take a knitting class. Like, here's your chance. Go do it. Or if you want to set up another challenge, like read a new book every week for 52 weeks. Just go out and do it. It's about wanting to wake up each day and do what you've set out to do. It's not about going out and just killing it. Yeah, and finish it. And just, like, whatever you say you're going to do, just go do it. Just, like, live your life. I think that means going on a reality show and wiping out and for the laughs that it's going to get? No. I think it's about challenging yourself and refusing the word no and just seeing how far your limits are and going to those limits.
Yeah, because there's also, you know, and I keep thinking of Lily Tomlin, you know, with the hang gliding, and she's quadriplegic. You know, you have to know your limitations, you know, and you can't put other people in danger by doing stuff. There was on The View this morning, they were talking to some swimmer or something. She's an athlete or something, or an actress, and she went on one of those reality shows, and they wanted her to jump off a 30-foot platform, and she's afraid of heights, and she literally was up at the top of this thing crying, you know. And I thought, it's not worth it. I don't care how much they're paying her. It's just not worth it. She did it, but, you know, she could have gotten hit. Water is hard when you hit it wrong, you know?
Yeah. I mean, there are certain things I wouldn't do, definitely. I mean, have you heard of the squirrel suits?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so squirrel suits are like another form of skydiving, only you're in like a jumpsuit that is carrying you through the wind. It's like a giant windbreaker.
Okay.
And you're just soaring through the air, but like if the wind changes or anything happens, you can just fall. Like there's no parachute. There's absolutely no parachute, and you fall from really high areas, and I would not do that.
Yeah, it's kind of a glider, right? You become a human glider.
You become a human glider, yeah.
Yeah, and unfortunately, to slow down, you either have to run out of steam or you hit something, kind of that thing, like, keep crashing into the trees, tops of trees till there's enough, resistance to slow you down. Yeah, that could be a really painful way to come to a stop. What other things wouldn't you do?
There's not much else I wouldn't do. That just seems like a death wish. And like I said, I don't have a death wish, so that just seems like a death wish. I don't know. I've tried a lot of things. I haven't heard. There's this guy who's done canyoning where he rock climbs with just like his bare hands and his feet. There's a new documentary about him, and I haven't gotten to see it yet because we didn't watch a lot of TV on the road. But he just climbs and climbs, and I swear if his hand lost grip, he would just fall and plummet. I wouldn't try that without the right training. And everything takes the right training, to get to build up that way. But there's not a lot I wouldn't try.
I saw that guy. I saw that guy. And you're right. If the hand grip doesn't work, and he went down, and his buddy thought he was dead because he dropped something like 100 feet really fast, and his head hit the wall of the canyon in 2 spots, Oh,
I didn't see any of that part.
Yeah, that was the fun part. And the guy carrying the camera yelling over, "Are you all right? Are you all right?" He's going to answer you. He just hit the wall in 2 places, Yeah, he actually did walk out of the canyon. It was amazing, but he scared the living heck out of himself. I don't know. There's a lot of things I don't think I would want to do, because physically I'm way past that. But you're young, and young people, you think you're invincible. You think, oh, wow, we're young, the bones heal fast, that kind of thing. Have your parents ever just put their foot down once and said no?
I don't think so. I think I've been really. I had this conversation with a friend and her family member the other night, and I can say, as a kid growing up too, I can say yes as much as I want, right? But if my parents don't support me and don't say yes right along with me, I'll never find out what I'm actually good at, and I'll never have that chance as a kid to play field hockey if my parents don't say, yeah, go out for the team, or I won't have that chance to pick up a video camera if my parents aren't like, yeah, here. We'll buy a family camera and you can test it out, and then we'll see where it goes. My parents, I think the only thing they ever said no to me with was singing lessons when I was a kid, because they didn't want me to ruin my voice before a certain age. And then by the time I hit the age they would be okay with me taking singing lessons, I didn't want to take them anymore. But my parents are the most supportive parents that I could ask for. The first thing my dad said to me when I got back from my trip the other day was he was so proud of me, and that was just a great feeling. And they offered me their car for the trip, but we didn't take it. But to know that, it's just their support and endless support. If you don't have the support of people around you, you can. You can still do everything if you don't have that support, but that extra support is huge. Their yes is as much of my yes.
Yeah, I consider myself a very supportive parent, and Teddy is too, but when the boys came in and said, I joined the Marines, we wanted to beat the daylights out of them and lock them up someplace. What are you, out of your mind, But again, they were old enough, they were able to do it, so you just bite the bullet and you support them, and you're there for them, and that's what parents do, and your parents sound like great people. We're going to go to a break, the last break, and then we're going to bring you back, and we're going to close out this discussion, and you can tell them about your Facebook and your site, the Hobby Hoarder, and what you're planning to do for this year coming, okay? We're going to be right back, and the last song is going to be How Do You Like Me Now? And since Matt's not here, I'm going to wing it, okay?
All right.
This is Michelle Tomlinson, the Scream Queen, and I listen to GameCon Radio. Why? Because it rocks.
And welcome back to Mo Banshee's Lair on GCR Internet Radio. We are in the last half hour of the show, and our guest is Libby Segal. She's the Hobby Hoarder. So what's next? Let me ask you, do you have a boyfriend, girlfriend, a relationship going?
No boyfriend right now. I mean, with the Hobby Hoarder year and working full time, I mean, really, the relationship, boyfriend or anything would have been really tough to have. So maybe year two will be like the Hobby Hoarder or something. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
no.
because nothing puts a lid on aspirations like a relationship. Because now you've got somebody else judging and saying, well, I don't think you should do this, I don't think you should do that. And I always tell my kids, and my children are older, and I say when they were young, I'd say, once you have a child, you're no longer whatever your name is, you're not going to be Libby, you're going to be Mom, and so that's just the way it is. Get it out of your system now. What exactly are you going to do this year?
This year there's a few things happening. I'm going to continue the lifestyle. I've already continued it. I did Bikram last week. I did a power dance class this week. I'm going to do roller disco, skating, stuff like that. I'm just going to keep the project as the lifestyle, keep it going. I'm also doing a new project called the Penny Project, where whenever I can, I leave a heads-up penny somewhere in hopes that it'll bring someone a little smile, just to find a heads-up penny and feel like they have some good luck for a minute. And then I'm writing a book. I'm going to compile all of the experiences that I had this year into a book that I hope will inspire others to go out and try new things and challenge themselves and refuse the word no. That's all I want, is to see other people go out and do things. So
your parents, what kind of jobs do they have that are they like, is your father like Evel Knievel and that inspired you to be more outgoing? No? No.
I mean, my dad works with people. I mean, he's a financial advisor. He works with people. He talks. He's a communicator. And my mom's a writer.
Mm-hmm.
And so I definitely got the writing gene from her. She's also an English teacher, an American Lit professor. She has her PhD. Like, I definitely got the writing genes from her, and they just inspire me. I don't know.
Mhm. Because I got to tell you, most kids, they're out, doing the bar scene and they're trashing their life, saying, oh well, it's okay, I've got time. But somebody in the chat said earlier, it sounds like you have a living bucket list.
Yeah, I guess it is a living bucket list, and I had never really thought of it like that. It was just living life. I didn't make this list before this year saying I want to go skydiving. I never really put out a list that said I want to go skydiving. I just came about, and I was like, okay, I'll go skydiving. Like, just try whatever you can. I mean, why not?
Fran Capo is a comedian, actress in New York. She's the fastest talking woman. She's in the Guinness World Book Records. I've had her on the show. And she's doing a lot of what you're doing, but she's older now. She's in her 50s. And she went down and saw the Titanic.
Okay.
And that's a trip and a half, because it takes hours to get down. And one of the rules is you can't be a gassy person. So if you're only allowed, I swear to God, we were dying when she was telling us about it. She said you can only pass gas like 4 times in 8 hours, because obviously you're in a little sphere, and if everybody's passing gas, it's going to be a real rough ride, But it was the last tour they were giving where they were going to take civilians down to it, and she said she wanted to do it, and somebody got her onto this sphere, and she had a Chinese lady in the sphere with her, and they were right at the front, where the beginning of the boat is, and the famous part you always see, and the Chinese woman was like taking thousands of pictures, and that Russian guy that mans the sub is like, okay, we gotta go, and she's saying, one more picture, and Francis, I thought they were gonna drown her, like, open the sphere and throw her out or something, but she's also been up on top of the highest mountain, and she's got a bucket list going, and you remind me of her because she figures, why not do it, for crying out loud, life is precarious. And do you ever sit there and think, what if I have a short life? What if I have a short life? Do you want to get it all in before you're 30, or is it just something that it seemed like a good idea?
It just seemed like a good idea. I mean, I'm hoping this lifestyle just carries on. I mean, the nice thing is, right, I've seen all these things, I've tried all these things. I traveled the country. So when I have kids, it's not going to be, let's go to Disney World. It's going to be like, let's go climb a mountain in the middle of Arizona. Or why don't you try unicycle riding? I've seen enough of this stuff to know that my kids one day can try them too. And that's part of the fun, is I'll get to relive it all over again.
Yeah, and let me ask you, the skiing, did you wear a helmet?
For which one? Sorry.
For skiing. Do you wear a helmet when you go skiing?
No, I haven't worn a helmet, but I have tried snowboarding, and I wore a helmet snowboarding.
Well, you wear one when you're skiing too, young lady, because my youngest son was on a bunny slope, and that's when we got the call. They found him in a coma on the bunny slope.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
The last words I said to him was, Andrew, make sure you rent a helmet. But they wouldn't rent him one. They wanted him to buy one. And, of course, he didn't have $100. So he did survive it he got his brains knocked out, and he did lose some memory from it and stuff. He did, he was alive, and we got him back and everything. The good news is, those really baggy pants the kids were wearing back, when he's older than you, but I'm talking about the really baggy ones that were hanging down around his you-know-what, and we put them on him to bring him home from the hospital, and he evidently, while he was in the coma, he did hear something. And he said, where did these clothes come from? And I says, well, they're yours. And he says to me, are you sure they're not some dead guys? Because the nurse had said to us, if he survives, we have clothes that are donated. And she kind of like raised her eyebrows, And I says, he's going to survive. But at that point, it really was not looking like he was going to. They wanted me to do all kinds of things. And so he says, well, when we get home, can you buy me some decent clothes? And I thought, yeah, let's hit him again. Let's hit him again. He's wearing regular jeans again, and he's got a belt on. Let's whack him a shot and see if we can fix all the other stuff too. But yeah, I am a huge proponent now of wearing helmets for skiing. And anything that's going down a hill fast.
Sure, yeah.
Because, yeah, your head isn't a coconut, man. But you amaze me. And tell everybody about your site and your Facebook.
Yeah, you can find my website, my blog, my videos, all at www.thehobbyhoarder.com. That's HOBBYHOARDER.com, thehobbyhoarder.com, and then I have a Facebook page, which is facebook.com/thehobbyhoarderyear, and then you can just find me on Facebook, and I'll say if your friend requests, it's Libby Segal, LIBBYSEGAL. So I'm there.
Yeah. This has been so much fun. Why roll? Do they even roller disco anymore?
Yeah, they do this roller disco in Brooklyn on Wednesday nights at this place called Crazy Legs. They have a DJ. They do some 80s stuff. I haven't been there yet, but it looks pretty cool. So
I know it's Perth Amboy or South Amboy. South Amboy, they used to have the roller, maybe it's South Amboy, Saraville. It's down that way where the old Megaplex used to be, some place down there. But they had the big roller rink, where the kids went and did disco and all that. But I mean, roller disco, I was hoping disco died someplace, maybe 15 years ago, really. I was hoping it would die a death and just stay dead. But wow, roller disco. And what's drawing you to that? Just the idea of doing it, huh?
Yeah, a friend of mine, before I left on my road trip, he expressed interest in it, and so we made a plan to go before the road trip, and then plans fell through, so we got to carry that out. And one of my good friends, her parents used to do roller disco, and she's really into it, so we're gonna test out the waters.
How about going to Japan and other countries? Are there other countries you want to go to? And what do you want to see there and do?
Yeah, traveling the world is definitely number one on my list of to do. I've lived in Italy before. I lived in Florence and Rome for a little bit. I studied abroad. I traveled through the north of Italy. I've been to Munich. I've been to Munich, Germany. Sorry. I've been to Prague. I've been to London. I've been to the south of France. And I've been to Canada, so I just want to hit everywhere. If I could go to every single continent, I would. Antarctica is definitely on the list. Japan, Australia. I mean, I would do all of it, and anything you can do there. I mean, go to the Great Wall in China, climb to the top of Mount Everest, just do it. Anything.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you, you need to marry somebody whose last name is Rockefeller or Trump.
Okay. And they gotta want to be married on the baseball field, or it's not going to happen.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So make it a Steinbrenner. Okay. One of the Steinbrenner kids. Yeah. You're an amazing young lady, and I kudos. I think that you're amazing, that you're doing all this, and you're at least trying it all. And we're not talking about you're doing it to become the best at it. You're just at least trying it all, and that's the real thing, is that you're at least trying it, right?
Yeah, that's what it's all about. It's not about being good. I mean, you can be good. I hope I get good at piloting a plane, because I really want to be a pilot. But it's just about trying things. If you don't try things, you'll never know. And I mean, I said it before. This year, you can fall in love with anything. And this year I fell in love with life because I tried all of it.
Right. So what food won't you eat?
Actually, I am a pescatarian, so I don't eat any red meat or chicken.
Uh-huh. My granddaughter just became a vegetarian.
Mm-hmm.
Old Bridge High School showed them for their finals in 9th grade how animals were killed and processed. And one kid threw up all over the floor, and the granddaughter came home and said she is not touching red meat again, or chicken. She doesn't eat anything that's meat-wise, and for that I want to punch the Board of Ed of Old Bridge right in the face, because to me that's kind of like an agenda. Do you know what I mean? I don't eat a lot of meat, but that's pushing an agenda. Because their whole shtick was they wanted the kids to write a paper about what they had seen and did they comprehend it. Well, then why didn't you have something else? Why didn't you show them another show, the Battle of Bismarck or something, and let them write about that? Why did it have to be animals being slaughtered, So it's not easy to make sure, because she's not a bean person. And beans are like a staple for it, so... So that's the real... we went to Ireland, and people in Ireland aren't vegetarians. No matter where you go, when you say you're a vegetarian, they look at you. No, you either eat some kind of fish or lamb. That's what we have here. Fish and lamb. You're going to eat one of them, So she basically just survived on green salad for the whole 9 days, which wasn't good for her, but she does take vitamins and stuff like that. But, wow, so you don't eat meat. That's funny because you'll try anything, but, you don't eat meat. So that's going to be a problem when you go to other countries, I think.
Yeah,
especially if you go to Ireland.
I mean,
well, go ahead.
No. I just the thing is, I've never liked the taste of the meat, so it was really easy to give up. But like I wasn't a vegetarian until after I went to Prague, and I'm convinced that if I went back to Prague, I would eat meat again. If I can taste it and like it, I'll go back to it. Definitely.
Oh yeah.
So.
Okay. Well, you're willing to try, and that's a good thing. Because we're saying, look, try not to think, what happened to them. Let's get past that, because for us, it's our health. That's what we're worried about, Being a vegetarian is a noble thing, but even that kid that was the Spider-Man, he ended up with all kinds of illnesses and had to go to a place and be trained how to cook vegetarian because he wasn't eating right. So when you make that lifestyle choice, it means you've got to research it all and learn what's a good supplement for meat, and it's not easy. It's just not really easy. Do you have any allergies you have to worry about when you travel?
No, I'm very lucky. I don't. I have a good friend who's allergic to beans, so that can be difficult. But no, I'm not allergic to anything, thankfully.
Wow, you are lucky because I'm allergic to peanuts. So that's another thing. In certain countries, that kind of thing can make it rough. This has been so interesting, and I wish you all the luck in the world. And I hope that when your book is done, you give me a yell, and we'll have you on, and you can promo your book on our show. And, like I said, it'll be on podcast. Probably later on tonight, and then tomorrow I'll have it on YouTube, and you can use it anywhere you want, download it off of the podcast, use it anywhere you want. This has been very interesting, and I wish you all the luck in the world that you get everything accomplished that you want to get accomplished.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Thanks for having me on the show.
You're a lot of fun. Yeah, you're a lot of fun, and tell your parents they are great parents. I think that they did a great job. Thank you. All you have to do is hang up.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you. That was great. What a lovely young lady. And it's so nice to find a young lady willing to, do things and take a leap of faith, basically. She's not home playing video games, which she might play them, but at least they're not consuming her life, which I found to be an amazing thing. With young kids now, everything is sitting in the house in isolation, and they're not explaining, they're not trying to learn anything or taste anything life has to offer them. They're living in these worlds in video games and stuff. And the minute I read about her, I knew I wanted to have her on. She was a very sweet young lady, and I wish her all the best. And again, she's the Hobby Hoarder. And if you look up Libby Segal, Segal, the Hobby Hoarder, you can find her on the internet. She's on Facebook. She's writing a book. Next week, Stephen Cameron is past chairman of the Belfast Titanic Society. They are keeping Belfast's connection with Titanic. See, we always hear about Titanic, and we hear about when she left Liverpool. We don't hear about her time in Belfast. That's where she was built, and what happened when she sank. people kind of gave Belfast a black eye that they really didn't deserve. And Stephen Cameron, when I was talking to him, he says, well, you know what we say about Titanic, she was okay when she left Belfast. Whatever you did to her, we don't know, but she was sailing great when she left here. A lot of people from Belfast, I think about 30 people from Belfast, the Guarantee Group, they were officials from the shipbuilders. They were on the ship. Most of them died. This is a little scoop I have. I talked to Stephen on the phone. I think you're all going to really enjoy the interview. I'm going to be playing some Titanic music, period music that they would have played on Titanic. And I'm going to bat around the Titanic. I'm looking for someone to come on and talk about Titanic with me, because the recording is about 35 minutes long and is recorded. But I think you guys are really going to love it. It's a very interesting 35-minute interview about what happened with Belfast. These guys built a fabulous ship, and then they kind of got, the bum's rush, the redheaded stepchild treatment, and like they said, they built a good ship. They don't know what happened. So we're going to talk about its Belfast connection. And then we're going to have on the 16th, Cheryl Lynn, our favorite psychic, is going to come on. She's going to give us predictions for 2013. And she's going to talk to us about, what she thinks is going on. So you guys will be able to call in if you want. And you can find out what you want, ask her questions. And then on the 23rd, I'm going to have the curator for the Forum Theater in Metuchen, which is one of the older theaters in Central Jersey. A lot of big acts perform there, and it's the traditional red velvet curtain type old theater. It's a beautiful old-fashioned theater that's still there. I used to watch movies in there when I was a kid. So we're going to have him on, Peter. And then we're going to have Ansel from Hollingworth Productions. He's going to be on talking about Dr. Mabuse, and I think he's going to try to get Jerry Lacey to come on and talk about Dr. Mabuse. Dr. Mabuse is not a nice guy. He's one of these evil guys back in the 20s and 30s that could get into your head and make you do things that you didn't want to do. So he's going to be coming on. And then we're going to have Chad Hopkins on May 7th for Lyndhurst, because they're going to have another Dark Shadows festival. And then Carolyn Quinn is going to be on May 14th, Mama Rose's Turn, and it's a story about Gypsy Rose Lee's mother. She was one of the worst stage mothers ever. This is a book that Carolyn has written talking about a really nasty mother that used her daughter to get fame and become the famous stripper that she never was in life. So I think you guys are all going to love the shows coming up. And with that, I want to remind everybody that there are lots of good shows on the GameCon. Well, actually, it's a GCR, Progressive Internet Radio. And I'm going to just run through a couple. On Mondays, we have What the Haunted. On Tuesday, and then Dead End Road with Deadeye. On Tuesdays, Angel Power Hour. That's on before me. And then Mo Banshee's Lair at 9 o'clock. Then on Wednesdays, we have Nothing But the Blues with Captain Steve. And Python Radio with Annette Munich. And then Highway of Light with DJ Deadeye. On Thursdays, we have Jurassic Park with Doc Stan. And on Fridays, we have Schizophrenic with Blondie. And on Saturdays, we have My Generation with Captain Steve. Lots of good shows. And Saturdays, we have Running Through the Jungle with DJ Panther Babe. Lots of good shows, lots of good music. There's jazz on, there's rock on all the time. Please check out our schedule. send our links around. And you can always find me at asylumsgate.com. And with that, I'm going to say good night, and I've got a new exit piece too. So with that, I'm going to say thank you for listening. God bless you all. I love you all, and be safe.
Where over the rainbow birds fly. Birds fly over the rainbow. Why, oh, can't
Thank you for visiting me at my lair. You can always contact me at www.asylumsgate.com. Again, thank you for visiting, and God bless you and yours. September. And the local witch doctor has said that the way he has to solve this problem is by being buried with his head hanging out. And when he's under the ground, his body will give off the bad electric voltage. And they did it once, but it didn't work because they didn't bury him right. I guess they covered his head. He got upset with that whole first burial thing. So he's not to be, he's not a coward. He let them bury him again. And the idea is they're going to release this electrical charge into the ground, and hopefully he won't be electrocuted anymore by lightning. And a man named Eduardo, he's some guy that was writing on this article about it. He says, it's a shame, such a nice guy. He's a well-grounded man, too. I hope there's a bright spark in the story. And he says, wouldn't it be cool if his name was Rod? So if you go to South America or Colombia and you're getting hit by electric lightning, they'll bury you, and that should solve it. If nothing else, it should solve the whole problem. The other thing that was in the news is the 8 top ways to make your funeral memorable. And I'm going to try to get this gal on. She's written a book, and I don't have her name right now, but she was in the news today. And, funerals now, everybody worries about the dying bit because it usually hurts. You're usually either sick or something, and then you drop dead, or you're in an accident. But once you're dead, people don't worry about funerals. So we have 8 of the most bizarre things that are going on with funerals now. Hiring mourners, that's number 8. If you're worried you don't have enough people to come to your funeral and cry, you can always hire people to cry. This is an old tradition, actually. It goes back to the Bible. And the family would hire mourners to sit by the body and sit there and cry and all of that stuff, ripping their clothes off, pulling their hair. The tradition is still carried on to a great extent in China, where $500 will get you 45 minutes of somebody sobbing. So if you're a right old bastard and nobody liked you and nobody wanted to shed a tear for you, you can always make pre-arrangements to hire people to go and cry at your funeral. It might be a new way for people in this economy to make money. I don't know. Number 7, a hands-free funeral. Well, there are bizarre rules surrounding royal families. The King of Tonga certainly takes the cake. When he dies, he's so important, no one can touch him, even after he dies. So the guys, the royal undertakers who prepare the body, are required to honor the late king by doing absolutely nothing with their hands for the next 100 days. And over the 3 months after the royal funeral, they have servants dress them, feed them, and attend to their more personal needs. So if you want to go hands-free and you've got somebody who's stupid enough to, go along with this, you can do a hands-free funeral. A stripper funeral. This was unique. In Taiwan, the more people show up at your funeral,
I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
Welcome to Mo Banshee's Lair, Visionary Talk Radio on GCR Progressive Internet Radio. We're rocking your world. And welcome to Mo Banshee's Lair, Visionary Talk Radio on GameConRadio.com. We are rocking your world tonight. So anyway, this is my second night teching a show, my own show. And, of course, I'm learning, and I needed time to figure this out, and I'm also listening to myself a second time. Tonight's show, we've got Libby Segal. It's Segal, right?
Yep.
Okay, and she's the Hobby Hoarder. She'll be on in a few minutes. And I have some crazy but news. Next week is the Titanic show. And Stephen Cameron from the Belfast Titanic Society will be on, and I have a special interview with him. And then on the 16th, I have Cheryl Lynn, and she's coming back, and she's going to do the 2013 predictions. And let me do some crazy but news. There's a bit of sad news. Sean Fitzgerald wrote this. Jess Franco, the prolific Spanish filmmaker who became renowned for his low-budget cult films, Dracula and The Awful Dr. Orloff, We Are 18 Years Old, a few of those, Necronomicon, and Vampiros Lesbos, and Dracula versus Frankenstein is dead at the age of 82. He's one of those B-movie guys, and his movies do have a cult following, so that's very cool. We hope his family, is comforted in knowing that he's a famous guy. An Illinois man was arrested in New Jersey with $200,000 worth of stolen Wisconsin cheese. New Jersey authorities say Vinamin Konstanovic Bilecki, 34 years old, from South Suburban Plainfield, was arrested Tuesday afternoon. They pulled his truck over. He was driving a refrigerated truck carrying 42,000 pounds of Munster cheese. Nobody says what he was going to do with this Munster cheese. And that's kind of weird. That's a lot of cheese to, kidnap. And evidently he's not saying what he was going to do with it. But because it's been, it's been stolen, the company K&K can't take the cheese back because they can't guarantee it. So they said if it passes inspection, the authorities will donate it to charity. So It's I don't understand why 42,000 pounds of cheese were abducted, but that's on him. Alexander Mandan, buried alive as a cure for being struck by lightning 4 times. Okay, this guy is a Colombian. He's 20 years old. He's been struck by lightning 4 times.
I'm a stand-up comic, that's right.
And you're also a writer. You're writing a book about what you've been doing the last year?
I'm writing a book about my 52 weeks, the 52 new things, yep. And I work in television. I'm an associate producer for television.
Oh, wow. You've got a lot on your plate for a young lady. So how did you fall into this?
I fell into the Hobby Hoarder route after I started taking up things like stand-up comedy, photography, and drawing, and an acting class. And someone said to me, one of my supervisors at work actually said to me, you really need to quit something. And I said, no way. And I went the school opposite way and decided I wanted to try everything under the sun. And since that day, the only thing I've quit is that job. So.
Wow. Let me just check and make sure everything's working here. Let's ask why. Was there one thing that kicked it off? Did you watch Hoarders? You know that show Hoarders with all the people that live in garbage?
No, I've never watched it. I've never ever watched it.
You've never watched it?
Never watched it, but I mean, I do base the whole idea off of this idea of hoarding, right? So I am going to keep a few of the hobbies, but the whole idea was I was going to try all of these, put them kind of in the attic of my mind, right? So I can go back to them whenever I want. So I'm hoarding the hobbies to go back to. So, yeah.
You did do some things that you were afraid of, right? That you had some fears.
Yeah, I've been scared of ocean water for a long time. I got stuck in the undertow when I was a little kid on a family vacation, and I had to be saved by the lifeguard. So I went surfing this year, which terrified me. I remember walking out with the surfboard and being like, nope, not going to do this, getting pummeled by a wave, and then just going back out there, getting on the board, trying it, and being like, all right, I can do this. And I got over my fear of ocean water, and just like that. It was awesome.
And thank you, Anita, in the chat, because I did have the other thing going on. That's why I heard the echo. Let's say the most satisfying hobby. What is the most satisfying hobby you've tried?
There's probably 2. I mean, piloting a plane has definitely been the best experience of the last year. I mean, I did it 3 times. That's how much I enjoyed it. But I also recently, the last hobby, technically, of the year was a cross-country round-trip road trip. And that was just incredible. I saw so many parts of this country that I never knew existed. And it's like, it was fun to wake up every morning. It was like, I want to wake up every morning. I don't want to sleep in. I want to enjoy every hour I have. So it was pretty incredible.
You gave up your daytime job, so how did you afford it? Because some of this stuff looks like it costs a lot of money.
Yeah. I mean, some of it was pretty expensive, but so what happened was in July I quit my full-time job that had benefits. But I transitioned into a freelance period, so I started taking freelance gigs, and I actually ended up working 40 to 80 hours a week for the rest of the year. I never had a break. So I was working full-time and still doing the hobby, so I was saving up on the side. But I was just filling my days.
Okay, so the flying, I'm going to ask today, in order to achieve enlightenment, some brothers would attempt to mummify themselves. This involved eating nothing but nuts and roots for years, as well as drinking a poison tea that was normally used to glaze pottery. So if you want to have some control over what you look like, you might want to self-mummify yourself and make sure you've got everything you want on you in case you die unexpectedly. And the first trend it's making a huge comeback too is post-mortem photography. We had a show about that. And when they were cutting-edge technology, cameras were used to photograph war and death. And people realized they didn't have pictures of their children, and there were groups of photographers who would go from town to town, and they would take the children of people, pose them, and take pictures of the dead child. Sometimes they would have an artist draw in eyes on the pictures so that it didn't look like the child was dead. While very morbid, it did comfort some people. Sometimes that's the only picture they had of their child. But it is coming back, especially for women who lose newborn babies. There are special photographers who will come and take pictures of your newborn baby so that you have something to remember that child. But it is also now coming back with family members taking pictures. And I know my neighbor downstairs, Karen, she took pictures of her mother for her father so that he had a picture of her in a coffin. And I thought it was a little weird because Mary Ellen didn't look anything like she did when she was alive. She was nothing but literally skin and bones. But it comforted Pat to have pictures of him. And poor Karen is the one who had to take the pictures, and I can only hope nobody took pictures of Karen because she didn't look too hot either. So, but that is coming back, and I've heard of it before. It is coming back in a big way. So there's your crazy but news, people. And like I said, next week we have a Titanic show. And our guest is waiting, if she's not brain dead by now. And I'm getting an echo, so please forgive me, everybody. Our guest is Libby Segal. She is the Hobby Hoarder, and I read a thing about her on AOL Huffington News thing, and I was stunned at her because she's so young. And she's so pretty, and it seems like she's got a death wish or something. But Libby, welcome to the lair.
Hey there, yeah. No death wish, no death wish. I just really like life a lot. I like living it.
How old are you?
I'm 24 years old.
You're 24 years old. My goodness. Let's just look at a couple of things. Pole dancing, samurai sword fighting, hip-hop dancing, stunt jumping, horseback riding, boxing, shark diving, bookbinding, that's bookbinding, sewing, fencing, pottery, inhale, meditation, beer brewing, plane flying, tea tasting, paddle boarding, knife throwing, exhale, chocolate making, unicycle riding, wire walking, breathe, overwhelmed yet, yes I am. You're a stand-up comic, right? Well, the better. Your spirit is more likely to be happy in the afterlife if its funeral is a loud, happy affair. And since it is hard to convince people to have an impromptu dance party at something as dour as burial, the people from Taiwan have found another way to get people in the festive mood. They hire strippers. Groups of strippers travel around the country in buses that look like parade floats and are paid to show up at funerals and entertain the mourners. That's neat. I mean, you know, if you've got a pervert, that's the way to go. You know, maybe your old dead uncle won't enjoy it, but you'll have a grand time. Number 5, dancing with the dead in Madagascar. Being buried once isn't enough. Every few years, family members will come together at an ancestral crypt, take the bodies out, and add booze to the mix, and suddenly you have a heck of a party. And people come from miles around, play music, get drunk, and they dance with the clothes-wrapped bodies of their late relatives. While the newer corpses are literally passed around from person to person to dance with after the party is over, the dead are reinterred until the next get-together. What a fun way to do it, you know? Hey, yeah, just dig up Grandma and tell her to come out and have a party one more time, just like an Irish Ceilidh. Number 4, fancy coffins. This is a new one. If anybody's looked at Costco, you can get Budweiser coffins, you can get Anheuser-Busch, you can get all kinds of things, firemen, marine, you can get all kinds of things. you can get them sprayed with all kinds of like Iron Man pictures. So if you're going to go with a simple burial service, you might want to spice it up by getting a coffin that's custom made. Artisans in Ghana have become world famous for their fancy coffins built to represent something special about the deceased. Maybe you can never put it down in your iPhone, but they do make cell phone shaped coffins for people. They make all kinds of things I've seen them made like cell phones and everything else. So that's a way to go. A fancy coffin if you're not up to the strippers or dancing with your dead relatives. Number 3, post-mortem marriages. And I saw this. The guy's his girlfriend died, and she, they were going to get married, so he ended up marrying her and having a wedding and all. She was laid out in her bridal gown. Some countries, it's legal to marry a deceased person, but you can't consummate the marriage. So, France is the first to start allowing the practice during World War II. I saw one man in Japan marry his dead fiance. So that's another way you can go. If somebody doesn't survive to the wedding, just marry them after they're dead, and they can't bitch about it. They can't say no, right? Number 2, self-mummification. A sect of Buddhist monks in Japan used to prepare their bodies for death years before they died. While it's illegal, there are rumors it still happens